Hi friends, welcome to Creative DIY Purpose. Today's projects are going to feature 5 different image transfers that you can make using an inkjet printer. So if you're ready, come on, let's get started. I paid $1 at the thrift store for this little silver plate. Going to apply 2 coats of the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the color Chiffon Cream. This is just one of those cheap silver plated plates, almost like you would purchase from the Dollar Tree. Then I went over to Canva.com. I uploaded one of the vintage ads found at thegraphicsfairy.com, and I layered some different elements on top and printed it out onto rice paper. Now I'm going around the edges because I want to tear around the image to kind of give it a vintage look. I do have this image along with another one available as a free printable over on my blog. You'll find them in the same post where I have the vintage seed packs available for you too. Applying the rice paper on with some Mod Podge, not too much, just enough to have it adhere. I will go over the top of it with a different type of sealer, probably just a spray sealer. You could go over the top with like a brush on polyacrylic, plain wax, or a colored wax. Works very well over the top of the rice paper and of course the chalk paint. The mixture that I have in the lid is half white vinegar and half water. I'm using this to do like a wet distress around the plate. This works really well if your chalk paint has been left for like 24 hours to dry and you didn't get the chance to go back to it. Sometimes water doesn't get it off with ease the way that adding a little bit of white vinegar does. Sometime this summer in some of the videos, I'll show you how I use that mixture to distress wood. It's just nice to not have to pull out the sander and deal with the mess. And it kind of gives you the same look when it's applied to wood. Next Sunday's video will be all about rice paper projects. And I also have this exact rice paper that I used linked in the description box. Now on to the Waterslide decal paper. After I printed the images, I did give them 3 coats of the Rust-Oleum spray sealer. I took 3 empty glass jars that somebody gave me to upcycle, and I'm applying frog tape right around the base because I want to paint the bottom just like that, and we're going to make little flower vases out of them. I absolutely love frog tape. I wish I would have had that in my stash a few years ago when we did all the painting in our home, because it works the best that I have found. I love the way chalk paint adheres to glass so easily. I do clean my glass prior with rubbing alcohol just to get off any grease. So I made a few mistakes with this project and I want to share it with you guys just so you don't have the frustration of it. I should have sealed the chalk paint in on the bottom first, or applied the Waterslide decals first, because from dripping the water onto the chalk paint, it reactivates it. Thankfully, I only had one little area where the paint came off from too much water and I was able to fix it. But just to save you some stress. Another mistake that I made was the way that I held that. I should have pushed it up a little bit further before I held it down, because I did clip some of the top of the decal. I did take another piece of decal that I had from another little mishap that I'll share with you guys and cover it up so you can't notice. Because I spray it 3 times with sealer, they're really durable. And I'm not sure if it was on this one or another one. I just took the whole decal completely off of the paper backing and was able to fit it on there a lot better because I'm trying to place it in between the two grooves. And in order to do that, I really wanted to look at it close up, see how there it kind of slips. And I think I ended up on this one being able to lift it up. So the key to being able to do that and have it all in a solid piece when it's that size is apply water to your surface and make sure that it's been sprayed with sealer at least 3 times. All right. So this is kind of funny. I felt so stupid after this. So you guys see the pretty daisies? Well, there is no such thing as white ink. So when I put it on, I'm like, whoa, they disappeared. So see how you can see them on the backing. So just a note, I do end up taking I had a white painted tin can, thankfully. So I cut around the daisy image, applied it to the tin can, and so again, because I sprayed it 3 times with sealer, they're so durable. So just to note that if your image has white in it, it's going to come out clear. So you'll need some type of a white backing. Here I'm just taking a cinnamon and water mixture and applying it on for a little aged look. The longer that you leave it on, the more it's going to soak in. I'd probably left it on for maybe 2 minutes and wiped it back because I didn't really want a super aged look, just enough for texture. So it's a great resource if that's all that you have on hand. You can even use nutmeg, gives you a little bit different shade of brown. But again, just being able to use something that you have on hand that's affordable. And around the top, so the grooves along the top of this jar were just a little too much. I decided to hot glue some of the ribbon on. I did have to push it down a little bit so it's not flush around the top. And I think that looks fine, but I wanted to make sure that those grooves were covered up. You could even go around with jute twine or just some regular string. The Waterslide decals can also be applied over to chalk. And then on to a quick freezer paper project. I will be sharing a video soon on different projects created with just freezer paper transfers. Just make sure that you reverse your image prior to printing it out if it has any words or letters on them. And these little squares were painted first with a coat of chalk paint. If you would like more information on how to create freezer paper transfers, along with some tips and tricks, and if you haven't seen it yet and would like to, I will make sure that I link it on the end of this video. The little wooden blocks that I used, I picked up at the Dollar Tree, I believe, along with that lace and the little clips. And then the wooden blocks were cut in half. If you like these flower seed images, you can download them. I have 20 in the set available on my blog. And our next transfer project is with tissue paper. I made this design over on Canva PRO, printed it out on tissue paper. I did tape the tissue paper onto a sheet of cardstock so it didn't jam my printer. And I applied 2 coats of the Rust-Oleum clear sealer. That will help so that the colors don't reactivate and bleed when applying the Mod Podge. I apply a thin coat of the Mod Podge, making sure that I get down into side of all of those little areas because I want the tissue paper to adhere to them. And now on to our iron-on transfers. I thrifted this little basket and it's got some broken edges. I went around the outside with some of the chiffon cream chalk paint. And now I'm just applying a mixture of water and cinnamon to give it an aged look. And the brushes, since it's damp, is also distressing. the edges to give it a nice aged look. If you wanted to use the cinnamon to give a little bit darker of an antique look, you can apply like a damp sealer. You could even do a spray glue. You could probably even do Mod Podge. And then with a cloth, just dab some of it off. I didn't do any of those steps. I just was thinking about it and wanted to sprinkle it on just to show you guys. So I'm just blending it in a little bit, and then I'll wipe off whatever I don't want. All right, and now we have our little iron-on image. I believe that this is just like a little piece of thin muslin fabric. These iron-ons adhere so beautifully, and the colors, you can tell, is so rich. And they really show up any detail that you have on your graphic. So just hot glued that on, just brushing this off now. And I'll apply a spray sealer to go over and just protect the wicker in the basket and the chalk paint. Friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to join me for my next video, which will be all about projects created with rice paper. Have a super blessed week, and I'll see you soon.